Video describing arrays and just talking a little bit on how they're used. So you'd want to use an array when you have multiple of the same data type. And what that could look like is, let's say you're an employer and you're keeping a list of employees' names. So for example, right here we have our three employees, John, Linda, and Johnson, and they're each stored in their own variable name, employee 1, 2, and 3. And this is pretty useful. You know, if we wanted a second one, we could make string employee 4 equaling Danny, right? Pretty easy. And then if we wanted to know them, we could have the program print it back out, like system.out print ln employee. Let's do 3. So this, when I run it, will print out the third employee's name. And that's really nice and easy. But if we wanted to print them all 4 out, we would have to write it over and over and over and over again. And that can get really, really annoying and complicated, especially if we want to call up the variables other places more frequently. So one way we can solve that is by using what's called an array. And arrays are all the same data type. So starting off with a declaration, we see that it's a little different than before. It's not that we're declaring each element, we're declaring the whole array as one object, and we're starting off with the size of it. And the size determines how many slots essentially are in an array, how many spaces, and we can increase and decrease that size as we go. So here you see we're taking each employee's name and now assigning it to employee 0, employee 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what this allows us to do is control the array employees very easily and then use this element indicator to get the specific one we want. So if we wanted to print all of the elements out to the computer, now we can use just one very simple for loop. And as I increases, it goes from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It will be represented here. And the system out print line will print starting employee 0, which is John, and then Linda, and Johnson, and Mindy, and Sandy, sorry. So we'll go ahead and run this. And there we go, there's all of ours. But what's really cool about this is that from like the employer's perspective, if we really quickly just wanted to cycle through and see number 3 like we did before, we don't have to type out as much as we did. We just change one single number, and then there we go. Mindy is in slot number 3. The thing about arrays, though, that is a little bit tricky is that the starting index is always at 0. So if we wanted to figure out the person in the first slot, we wouldn't type in 1, because that would actually give us Linda. We would use 0, which will give us John. So we'll just test that out and make sure it works. So 0 gives us John, and 1 gives us Linda. Yep. The one thing I did want to just touch on is that when we declare the string, or I'm sorry, the array, we're declaring this one as a string array. So I can't be putting integers up in here. And vice versa. If I have an integer array and I try to put strings in, that's going to be an issue. They all must be the same type. If you're trying to do things with different types, that's into structures, and that's another whole area. I hope this video was useful, and hope to talk to you guys again.